Welcome to another episode of Digital Forum with Coffee and Bach. This is where we talk about all things technology, emerging technology, artificial intelligence, and its fit in the world. This is Michael Bachman. I'm joined by my co-host, Peter Coffey. He's from Salesforce. I'm from Boomi. And today we have a wonderful guest for you. We're joined by Allie Carey, Chief Strategy Officer of Banking and Wealth Management. We're glad to have her today, but before we jump in with Allie and ask all sorts of practical questions around AI, I want to remind you of PACT Forum. Again, this is the Philadelphia Alliance for Capital and Technologies Forum. That's PHORUM 2025. This is our marquee technical conference for the Philadelphia region. We hope to see you there. And if you would like a discount to PACT Forum, which will be held at the Comcast Innovation Center on Tuesday, April 22nd of this year, enter in code TDP 2025, and we will see you there. Allie, welcome to Digital Forum with Coffee and Bach.
Thank you. It's so exciting to be here. I've been part of the team pulling together Forum for the past 3 years, and the three of us get to have fun conversations every other week. It's exciting to take it on the road, I'll say.
Well, we're glad to have you here, and we have a whole bank of questions loaded for you. And first, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do at SEI?
Great. Yeah. So as you mentioned, Mike, I am the Chief Strategy Officer of SEI's private banking and wealth management business, and we're really bringing to the industry some key capabilities that is a foundation for financial services and specifically wealth management. Sometimes we like to say that Wall Street runs through Oaks, Pennsylvania, and most people don't know. So as a technology, an outsourced operation, and asset management provider to banks, we really are working to power the future of wealth. And the future of wealth, AI is sprinkled throughout all of that. And it's a game-changing time, and one I'm really excited about. I have a painting in my house. It's a ship that has a whole host of sails, right? So it's that schooner, but in the middle it has a steam stack. So it was on the edge of steam power coming in, and I use that as inspiration because I truly feel like we're in a similar moment in time. We're holding on to the past and dipping our toe into the future to see how much faster it can take us. And wealth management is just, prime for it.
Allie, when people hear the phrase wealth management, I suspect that they think we're talking about a very elite fragment of the marketplace. But I saw a number the other day that said that for every $100 that's paid in wages in the United States, $20 moves across generations by inheritance. I mean, preserving wealth against a volatile tax environment and protecting wealth for future generations. This is not just the dynastic conversation of a show like Succession anymore. Many ordinary households, seems to me, need to be adopting a wealth management perspective, but that means they need wealth management services delivered at a scale and at a level of affordability that wealth management practice has not had to provide in the past. Is that among your great challenges now?
It really is. And I like to look at it as an opportunity, honestly, because we're at a time where, to your point, Peter, services that have traditionally been only accessible by the rich are now becoming truly accessible by anyone. The mass market, to those just coming into the workforce, to even minors and children. There are service providers out there that are focused on providing opportunity for kids to invest, for kids to learn about the markets, to become financially literate. Balancing a checkbook is not what we learn today. That's all taking care of it for us, right? We log in and we see, oh, I don't have enough money, or I do have enough money, right? So what's the next step? So there's so much access, unprecedented access to wealth management products, but that doesn't mean we're finished, right? It's now connecting those products. So I have an investment account, I have a bank account, I have an estate plan. You have firms like Trust and Will, or good wealth that are making estate planning and trust services very accessible to the mass market at an affordable rate. But they're still disconnected. And to be able to protect and grow wealth, that's where a wealth manager has been so successful in helping the wealthy. So how can create technology experiences that pull those things together?
Well, you've
That's the
also
big
made
opportunity.
another really key point, which is that when I've spoken with financial services providers, I will sometimes ask the question. I walk in the door, I've got a checking account, a savings account, an educational account for my kids, a car loan, a home loan, and a retirement account. How many of me do you know? And they look at the upraised fingers. Well, we know the 6 of you that we do business with. We know the other 2 of you that we're marketing to, not realizing that you're the same person on different channels. And the idea that you will have to not merely add automation to those silos, but really take decisive action to reorganize your data around the customer as a person on a life journey, as a member of a family, as a member of an affinity network. That the opportunity for AI to do that is huge. But I wonder if the path of least resistance isn't for each of the silos to introduce AI, say what a good am I.
I really think, and it really kind of gets back to the second episode of this podcast, right? Is the data.
Yes.
So the data available on a mortgage customer is very different than the data that's available on an investment account. And these data sets are so disparate. Bringing them together into one place and being able to differentiate between mortgage interest and investment interest, or a share count and a price of a stock versus, the principal amount of a loan. That's the challenge, right? And bringing that together, and there's tools now that we can do this, right? There's data lakes and clouds and all of these different things, but that's where a human is outside of their breadth. They can't look across all of that data and create insights from it. That's the power that AI brings, but it really starts with liberating the data from those different business silos.
It's almost as if we have a problem in that it's called artificial intelligence, as if the thinking is the hard part, when it's really artificial comprehension.
Right.
Because to your point, the breadth and diversity of the data sets that need to be fused into an understanding of a customer and a customer's intentions and goals is perhaps the greater challenge.
Mm-hmm. And that's what a wealth manager has done for so long.
Well, so with that, excuse me for interrupting, and just connecting these dots for AI or agentic systems, or the new level of cognition that we're experiencing today. How are wealth managers poised, primed, ready to use these kinds of systems to bring those disparate data sets together?
Yeah, so it all starts with the people, and honestly, it's educating the people, getting adoption of AI tools that are available to us as consumers, because financial services, as we all know, is a highly regulated space, and there's a lot of concern around privacy, around access to data, permissioning data, and making sure that all of our friends in legal and compliance are satisfied with the governance that's set up around this. So at an enterprise level in financial services, that is paramount. Then there's the education of practitioners in the industry around how to use generative tools, and not even generative tools. They get a lot of the press today, but there's so much that machine learning can do inside of financial services that, quite honestly, is already happening. But it's making it apparent that to the employee base, either in your enterprise or across the industry, how to use it, how to engage with these tools to unlock that creative thinking of, hey, I do this day to day in my role and it stinks. And I've kind of accepted that I have to do this, but maybe I don't have to accept that anymore. And unlocking those possibilities is where we are, I think, in financial services. There's a lot of point solutions. I solve this particular problem with my AI tool. What we need to get to is the more platform or holistic workflow solve. Peter, getting back to what you said, the life cycle solve. I was speaking to somebody recently who's trying to basically automate personal finance. And his whole point is we're
And
trying
for my
to
next
teach.
step, I'll cure world hunger and take us to Mars.
Exactly, right? But his point is we're trying to teach people personal finance. They don't have the time to learn it.
No.
We can automate these things, which will only mean better decision making, more wealth creation, and better outcomes for, people throughout the world to solve world hunger next, to your point, Peter. But it's unlocking those creativity from people that are doing it day to day. That's where we are, I think, in financial services.
Well,
We're primed for it.
let's double underline that word adoption, because Peter Drucker
Yes.
famously said, invention is not innovation. Innovation happens when an invention achieves adoption. Are people seeing these things as, I think, to your point, power tools that will take over the low value but time consuming aspects of their work? Or do many of them regard these things as competition for their job instead of empowerment in their job?
We talk a lot about competition, and it's not in the breath of taking jobs. It's more of what jobs should people be doing in the future, right? And we're starting with augmentation, right? We're augmenting the jobs people are doing today to create efficiencies, to create more scale in the business, limit risk, right? So when people aren't manually doing things, that limits risk, which is a great thing in financial services. I think where we need to get to is what shouldn't people be doing anymore that AI can be doing, and what should those people be doing? We're still stuck in, we run these processes today this way. Let's use AI to do those processes instead of really saying, well, why are we doing those processes that way? And that's the turning point that we're getting to, I think, across financial services.
And those are two key distinctions. The first, it's not what job should it take, but what tasks should it assume. Break the job down into tasks and say, yeah, but these are clearly, in the words of the old IBM 1960s print ads, machines should work, people should think. But then also to your point that the nature of the job being done should be re-examined. Say, well, is that process an artifact of the old technology? Does that step in the process only exist because you used to have to fax a document for signature at that point? And the process should not be automated. The process should be reconceived.
Right, exactly. And there's you bring up paper, right? I always like to talk to my teams. Financial services hasn't really gone through that digital transformation, in my opinion. We are more digital than we were 10, 15 years ago, but have we truly transformed like photography? No. Right? There's still so much paper. This is the time.
My wife and I observed that when we most recently bought a house and said, do you realize how little this process has changed since the last time we did this 40 years ago? And now we're using an electronic signature on a document. But we're still doing wire transfers of money, which always makes me feel like I'm, putting money in a bottle and throwing it into the ocean, just hoping it washes up on the right beach. And the process has been electronicized or digitized or whatever, but the process has not evolved, really, has it?
No, it hasn't. And I can't remember the last time I held a physical photo, but I can tell you, I held a tax form this morning.
Yeah,
because I needed to scan it.
All of the securities marketplaces where you still hear things like 3-day settlement period on a transaction, and my reaction is, why is that not 30 seconds? And there were actually tests that were done using distributed ledger technology, sometimes called blockchain, even though that's a special case, to get, and the SEC has approved this, but adoption just doesn't seem to be happening. People are adding digital mechanisms to existing processes, but not re-engineering the processes. Do you feel that there's something that's going to happen? Is there a force majeure that's going to make that finally happen? Is anyone in a position either to impose it or to be such a loud ringing bell cow that the rest of the industry finally decides to follow them?
So a couple things there. This past May, so May of 2024, the industry did move to T+1, so trade plus one for marketable equity securities. So that was a big move, right? India, in
That's a
some
1 day
one
resolution.
day,
1 day,
yeah,
okay,
one day.
all right, all right.
Now, India, for example, they have some markets that are T+0, so same day, which it's happening, it's coming, right? Because it's already happened. I think it's going to be a consortium, Peter. We're going to have to get the big custodians, the big market makers to rally around it. But I'll tell you, in the last 56 days of this administration, they're making it way more friendly from a crypto perspective, from a blockchain perspective. They're starting to, create some pathways for movement.
You have any
Whether they're
reservations? You have any reservations about the vigor with which they're tearing down all the fences instead of picking the ones that are really in the way?
I think from a pure like innovation standpoint to create some collaboration around moving the industry forward and exactly
Okay,
what you just said from
all right.
in seconds getting access to your money. Too early to tell, but these first couple ones are definitely going to create, and I already am participating, more collaboration across the industry, breaking down concerns from a regulatory perspective of we don't really know what to do,
Yeah.
which is going to help. Is going to help.
Well, there's no vertical that's more universally important to people than health and money. And so it's been great to be able to talk to you about one of those today. Thank you, Allie.
Absolutely. And Allie, just a couple of closing questions for you, or at least one closing question. You talked a little bit about some of the impediments to making everything more fluid, and it starts with people. But what other gaps do you think exist today with technology itself that are an impediment to being used?
It's a really good question. So it really comes back, and maybe it's not a technology gap, but I truly believe it comes back to the data right now, and really ensuring that we, like I said, there's governance around the data because of all the different regulators and things that we need to make sure is safe, secure, anonymized, etc. But then also bringing what we believe to be disparate data sets together to put the customer at the center. So that common factor of being the customer is what needs to rally everyone together. And in any large organization, there's walls we have to break down. It's not just data walls, it's people walls, it's collaboration, and it's organizing a strategy to move together forward, right?
So people, process, data, those things are important. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I heard you just say. Couldn't agree more. Allie,
And also, Allie, I think another subtext I'm hearing is the need for harmonization across all the players in a market is huge because it's simply not possible for any one player
You
to
got
make
it.
transformative moves that don't maintain interoperability with all the other markets and players in those markets.
Collaboration is key. There's too many pieces of the pie that are required, specifically in financial services, that all need to be at the table
Yeah,
to
yeah,
move it forward.
yeah.
yeah, well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Allie Carey, thank you so much for being with us today here on Digital Forum with Coffee and Bach. And for our listening audience out there, remember, join us at Pact Forum on Tuesday, April 22nd at the Comcast Innovation Center. Again, the URL that you'll want to go and register is Philadelphia Pact, that's PACT, and /forum, PHORUM, and then use that code TDP 2025. We will see you at Forum. Allie will see you at Forum. Peter and I will be there co-hosting it from here and far. And we're looking forward to having a fantastic session for an entire day at the Comcast Innovation Center. Thank you for your time today. We appreciate you.